Alright, so in this tutorial we're going to go through and we're going to whiten Hillary's teeth here. So as you can see, they look a little bit rough. So first off, we're going to zoom in on her teeth, so we don't need to look at the rest of her. Alright, so now that we're zoomed in nice and close on her teeth, we can get a really good selection. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to make a copy of the background layer by doing Command J. And then next, we're going to use the selection tool. I like to use this quick selection tool right here, or you can use Y on your keyboard to make selections. What it does is it really works by finding and following edges on the image. So it's kind of a smarter selection tool. So I'm going to click on it. Now, you'll see it's kind of big. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller so I can get a more exact copy, because I'm going to get all of her teeth and her lower teeth. So I'm just going to select here, and you can just click multiple times, or you can click and drag. But you see it's getting a little bit extra. We can go back and clean that up in a second. So once you have the general her mouth selected, you're going to go up here on the menu bar and you're going to click the minus button. Now this minus is going to take away from your selection. So you see this is subtracting out my selection here. Now it's not going to work perfect. You still do have to do some of the work yourself. We're going to go through and get a pretty close selection. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect, like I said, but we do want it to be pretty close. I don't need all this space right here. So I'm going to go through and make my tool a little bit smaller. I'm going to drag it through. Okay, now I do want to make sure that I have all of her tooth. So we'll do that. And you may have to make this like super small. We'll go to 5 pixels. All right. So once we have that, we're going to push the plus selection button, and we're going to increase our selection a little bit more. All right, so we have general her teeth selected. Now, I want her teeth to go to a layer by themselves, so that all we would see if we deleted everything else was the teeth. So while this is selected, I can push Command J, and you see if I hide these 2 layers, all that we have left is her teeth. Okay, so I'm going to turn this back on because we're just looking at her teeth. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to work on with our adjustment layers again, and we're going to select the yellow tones, and we're going to delete the saturation or lower the saturation of yellow tones. Now, no one's teeth are perfectly white, so if we were to go in here with a paintbrush and click white and go in here and paint white, that doesn't look realistic. So I'm going to undo that. Now what we're going to do while layer 2 is selected, I'm going to click adjustment layer button and go to hue saturation. Okay, so right here, first I want to make sure that no matter what I do, I only do it to the teeth. So if I was to start messing with the saturation right now, it would mess with the saturation of the entire picture, which is not what I want to do. So I'm going to go back to 0. And what I want to do is I'm going to right click on this hue saturation layer right here. Right click, and I'm going to go to create clipping mask. What a create clipping mask does is it makes it to where whatever changes I do clip to the nearest layer. So for the hue saturation, now any changes I make are only going to make it to that layer of teeth. So right now you see she has purple teeth. But that's not what we're going for. We're going for white teeth. So as we do this, we're going to decrease the saturation of the yellows. Now in the first tutorial you guys watched, it showed you how to change the saturation of just a certain color group. So we're going to go right here to master, and we're going to go to yellows. Now if I decrease the saturation here, I'm going to go not quite to gray, because that's not real. I'm going to go a little bit more. Everybody has a little bit of a yellow tone to their teeth. So we're going to click right in here-ish. Okay, so when we're right in here, her teeth automatically look a lot better than they did. So we're going to hide that, and you can see the difference. Okay, and we're going to brighten them up. So we're going to increase the lightness. So on that same adjustment layer, I'm going to increase the lightness. Okay, So there you go. Those look really, really white, so maybe not so much. Okay. So now we have that. If we zoom out, her teeth look a lot whiter. They almost don't even look realistic. So I'm going to go down a little bit and make them a little bit more realistic looking, because nobody's teeth are that white. Nobody's teeth are that white either. So we're going to go, let's see. For saturation, I have -44, and for lightness, I have about +21. So that gets me to where her teeth are really, really white. The problem is with doing it this way, that original selection you made had to be really perfect. Now, my original selection was not super perfect. So in a moment, I'm going to show you how to go back and undo that selection and recreate a better selection. Alright, so in the first part of this video, I showed you how to create a selection and put it on its own layer. Now, if you decided to do this without its own layer, we could do similar to what you guys did to the girl in the sunglasses. So I'm going to delete both of these two layers and show you how to do it that way. So you could definitely do it that way, but you would have to be very meticulous in your selection. Now, I'm going to select again. Actually, no, I'm not. I am going to go ahead and do an adjustment layer and go to Hue Saturation. I'm going to select yellows, and then I am going to decrease this, and we're just, all the other stuff's going to change, so don't freak out until we get to where we're going. So we're just going to watch her teeth. So we see the way her teeth are. We're going to decrease the saturation of the yellow. Okay, and it's decreasing saturation of everything, but we're only looking at her teeth, really. Okay, so let's get them right in here. I'm at -55. Let's see. I'm going to go back to -44, I think, but I wasn't last time. So -44. And then in the lightness, I'm going to brighten that up a good bit. Okay, so in my lightness, I'm going to go right here. You're fine. Alright, so once we have our saturation around -44, if you don't like it that light or less saturated, you can kind of put it wherever you want, but I'm going to go to -44. And the lightness, I have it +20. I think that looks relatively realistic. So the last step that you're going to do to make sure that all the changes that we just did on the saturation aren't on all of Hillary is to right-click on this Hue Saturation layer, and we're going to go to Create Clipping Mask. This is again going to clip that only to that bottom layer. Now it still hasn't changed anything. Like we did in the very first video, we're going to invert this layer mask. So I'm going to push Command-I, and now everything's back to normal. So this is where you're going to go in really close with her teeth, and we are going to, sorry, there were some people being rude and giggling really loud. And we're going to paint white on this black adjustment layer really close up and whiten her teeth. So you can change the size of your brush if you need to. We're going to get really close here. Okay, see how yellow it is? We're going to basically get rid of that yellow. Okay, and you can go in really close. You can do generally, and then just make your brush smaller and smaller here. Okay, so as you can see, we're just going through. It's really pixelated now because I'm zoomed in way farther in on her teeth than anyone should ever have to do. Okay. Woo. We will cover a video here in the next few days that will also show you how to get rid of spots like that. So these are probably some of the tools that you're going to use the most, especially if you're editing photos of people. No one's teeth are perfectly white, so you want to make sure that this is something you definitely remember how to do. So in this part, I'm only going to do her top teeth, so you guys can see the difference of this. Okay, so I'm going to zoom all the way back out. Alright, so I have zoomed all the way back out. You guys can see that her teeth look much whiter, but to see the real difference, if you click on and off the hide button here, you will see the difference. So it definitely looks a whole lot whiter now that we've changed the saturation of the yellows in that picture. And if you ever need to adjust it, you can always just double click this if this part has gone away. And we can still adjust here, make it more yellow or less yellow. You never want your teeth to look gray, so you have to be careful with saturation right there. Alright, then you can Command Shift 4 and save a screenshot of this. Also save this file as a JPEG, so File Save As. Make sure you change the file format from JPEG to from Photoshop to JPEG, and navigate to your image editing folder. And turn this in on Google Classroom.